bevo.com.
I wrote an article for the Harvard Business Review in '98 called What Makes a Leader? And it was really an extension of a book I just finished called Working with Emotional Intelligence. The review asked me to talk about the competencies or abilities that you see in star performing leaders. That article, by the way, has become their #1 most requested reprint in the history of the review. It really struck a chord. I think it did because it articulated something that people had sensed but not been able to put into words. Basically, what I argued is that there are 4 kinds of strengths that you see in the best leaders. One is self-awareness. People have the capacity to reflect on themselves, to monitor themselves. And this matters in many ways. One is for making good decisions. Turns out that you need to be able to capture that felt sense of feels right, doesn't feel right, and mix that into the hard data on a business decision or on a life decision. You know, should I keep this job or should I take a risk and take another job? That's not a decision you can make a list of pros and cons. You need to have a gut sense because there are ungraspables, things you can't put into words that actually are important information that part of your brain knows, but only can tell you, not in words, but in a gut sense, literally a gut sense. That's the way we're wired. So people who make good or better decisions, business leaders, anyone, have this capacity for self-awareness. There's another way it's important, that is as an ethical guide. The answer to the question is what I'm about to do in keeping with my values doesn't come to us in words. It comes to us again in a gut sense. Then we put it into words. So this is critical for ethical navigation, both individually and for a company. The second component is self-management. How we handle our emotions. Can we keep our distressing emotions from crippling or interfering with our capacity to think well, to make good decisions? Can we stay focused, motivated, positively, working toward goals even when things are tough? Are we adaptable, flexible in making responses? All of that comes from internal self-management. The third part of emotional intelligence abilities for leaders is empathy. Do we sense how other people are thinking about a situation? Do we know how they feel? Can we establish rapport? Do we care? Are we concerned? Do we want to help others to the extent that we can? All of those are critical leadership abilities. And finally, there's the relationship skills, the obvious, more visible leadership competencies like effective communication is one. Can we inspire people? Can we motivate people? Can we articulate a shared mission from the heart that speaks to people's hearts, that really moves people? In other words, are we authentic leaders? Are we able to negotiate? Are we able to collaborate? Can we model collaboration so that people can see, hear that the leader is showing us how to be a good team player? All of those are highly effective leadership abilities, and the best leaders have strengths in at least 6 or more of those. Any leader, of course, can develop them if they have the proper help.
Daniel, you talk about leadership style and the impact on the workforce. And you mentioned that there is 6 styles of leadership. So can you just give us an outline of the styles and how they each have an impact on the workforce?
If you think about it at a kind of primal level, the real task of a leader in terms of the brain is to help people get and stay in the optimal internal state for working at their best. And many leaders shoot themselves in the foot by ignoring the fact that in any human group, the most powerful person in the group is the one people pay most attention to, put most importance on. What that most powerful person says and does has the most impact on the internal state, the emotional state of everyone else. So if you're looking for best results from the people that work for you, your responsibility is to drive the state that's going to help people be at their best and to avoid leading in a style that puts people in their worst state for performance. And what are the styles that help? Well, there are four at least that have very positive resonance and impact on people. The first is, you could call it the visionary, someone who articulates a goal that motivates us all. And that creates a very positive state, a very hopeful, forward-looking, goal-oriented way of working. The second is someone who's a coach, who really cares about the people that he or she is leading and helps people get better or get further toward their own career goals by, for example, getting an assignment that will stretch them and help them learn how to do something that they're going to need along the way. People appreciate that enormously, and that too creates a positive climate. A third is being affiliative, understanding that having a good time together is not a waste of time, that it creates a kind of a social capital that means that we have stronger connections, we can work better together. And then a fourth is the consensus leader, someone who feels that well, I may not know the best way to go forward. I need to ask other people. All of that has a positive impact. And then finally, two that don't work so well. One is a pace setter, someone who just leads by example and is very critical of other people who aren't as good as they are. And the command and control, the coercive style of leader, who is someone who doesn't mind blowing up at people, for example, thinks nothing of it, or humiliating them. And those two ways of impacting are the worst possible, because all people are going to be able to focus on after that interaction is how awful it was, how much they hate the boss.
But Daniel, is there a time and a place for command and control style leadership?
Being very strong and just ordering people to do things under normal circumstances has a negative impact, but in a genuine emergency it's quite appropriate.
Bevo.com